3 years of marriage to Korea's most dangerous man, and Joanna Mitchell had never felt his touch beyond the cold press of his wedding ring. Tonight that changed. Kong Min-ho cornered her in his study, eyes black with something she'd never seen before, hunger raw and desperate. His hand slammed against the wall beside her head, his breath hot against her neck. "I can't do this anymore," he growled, and when he took her against that wall, her screams echoed through the mansion, shattering 3 years of silence, 3 years of untouched loneliness, 3 years of a marriage that existed only on paper. Welcome to Story Korea, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. Joanna had arrived in Seoul 3 years ago as a bride purchased by Min-ho's dying grandfather. The old man wanted legitimate heirs before cancer claimed him. Min-ho had stood at the altar like a statue, beautiful and cold, his jaw tight with rage at being forced into this arrangement. He'd slipped the ring on her finger without meeting her eyes. That night, he'd shown her to the guest wing and disappeared into his own quarters. He never came back. The mansion was a fortress in Gangnam, all steel and glass and security cameras. Joanna wandered its halls like a ghost, learning Korean from tutors Min-ho hired, eating meals alone in the formal dining room, sleeping in silk sheets that had never known warmth. The staff treated her with distant respect. Mrs. Park, the head housekeeper, was the only one who showed her kindness, teaching her how to navigate Korean society, how to dress for the charity events Min-ho occasionally forced her to attend on his arm. At those events, Min-ho played the devoted husband. His hand would rest possessively on her lower back. He'd lean close to whisper translations in her ear, his breath making her shiver. Then they'd return home and he'd disappear again, leaving her aching with a loneliness that cut deeper than any knife. She didn't understand him. Didn't understand why he'd married her if he found her so repulsive he couldn't bear to touch her. The truth was more complicated. Min-ho touched himself every night thinking of her. His hand wrapped around his length as he imagined her curves beneath him, her dark skin against his sheets, her voice crying his name. But he couldn't cross that line. His world was violence and blood. His enemies circled like sharks. He'd watched his parents murdered when he was 12. His mother violated before his eyes while his father bled out on the floor. He'd sworn never to care for anyone again, never to give his enemies that kind of leverage. Then his grandfather forced Joanna into his life, this beautiful black woman with curves that made his mouth water and eyes that saw too much. He'd taken one look at her walking down the aisle and felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd thought died with his parents. Need. The terrifying desire to possess her completely. So he'd locked himself away from her, knowing if he touched her once, he'd never stop. By the end of the first month, Joanna had stopped hoping he'd come to her room. She focused on learning the language, on the charity work Mrs. Park helped her organize, on making a life in this cold house. She made friends with the cook's daughter, a woman named Ji-won who worked at a nearby cafe. Ji-won didn't care about the Mafia connections or the dangerous reputation. She just saw Joanna, lonely and trying. That evening, Ji-won invited Joanna to her cafe for coffee. Joanna hesitated, knowing Min-ho preferred her to stay on the grounds. But he was away on business, and she was so tired of being trapped. She slipped out through the garden gate, her security detail following at a discreet distance. The cafe was warm and crowded, full of laughter and music. Ji-won introduced her to friends, young Koreans who were fascinated by her story, by America, by her hair and her accent. One of them, a man named Tae-sung, was particularly attentive. He was handsome in a soft way, an artist who taught at the university. He asked about her painting, her interests, her life in Seoul. Joanna found herself laughing for the first time in months, talking freely, forgetting for a moment that she was married to a man who couldn't stand to be in the same room with her. She didn't notice the way Tae-sung's hand rested on her arm when he laughed, didn't see how he leaned close when he spoke. But Min-ho's security team saw everything, and they reported directly to him. Min-ho was in a meeting with his lieutenants when the message came through. His phone buzzed with photos, Joanna in that cafe, laughing with another man, that man touching her arm, leaning close, looking at her like she was something precious. The rage that consumed him was instant and absolute. He stood so fast his chair crashed backward. His second-in-command, Junwoo, looked alarmed as Minho's knuckles went white around his phone. "Cancel everything," Minho said, his voice deadly calm. "I'm going home." He made it to the cafe in 15 minutes, driving himself, his security scrambling to keep up. He walked in and saw her immediately, saw her smile, saw that man's hand on her arm, saw red. He crossed the cafe in 5 strides and grabbed Joanna's wrist, pulling her to her feet. "We're leaving," he said in Korean, his grip iron. Joanna's eyes went wide. "Minho, what are you? Now?" He switched to English, his accent thick with fury. He turned to Tae-sung, who'd stood up, looking confused and concerned. Minho said something in rapid Korean that made the color drain from Tae-sung's face. Then he dragged Joanna out of the cafe and into his car. The drive home was silent and terrifying. Minho's jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. His hands gripped the steering wheel like he wanted to break it. Joanna's heart pounded. She'd never seen him like this, never seen any emotion from him at all. When they reached the mansion, he pulled her from the car and through the front door, past the shocked staff, down the hallway toward his study. "Minho, you're hurting me," she said, trying to pull her wrist free. He released her immediately, but his eyes were black with something wild. "Inside," he said, gesturing to his study. She'd never been in this room. It was his private space, all dark wood and leather, walls lined with books and weapons. He closed the door behind them and locked it. The sound made her pulse spike. "What were you doing?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Having coffee with friends," Joanna said, lifting her chin. "Something normal people do." "Friends." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That man had his hands on you. He was being friendly. You wouldn't know anything about that." Something flickered in his eyes. "Friendly? Yes. Unlike my husband, who can't stand to be in the same room with me." 3 years of hurt poured out. "You married me and then locked me away like I'm something shameful. You ignore me, avoid me, treat me like I don't exist except when you need arm candy for your business dinners. So forgive me for accepting a little kindness from someone who actually talks to me." Minho moved so fast she gasped. One moment he was across the room, the next he had her pressed against the wall, his hands on either side of her head, caging her in. His face was inches from hers, his breath coming hard. "You think I avoid you because I can't stand you?" His voice was raw, stripped of all control. "You have no idea what you do to me. No idea how many nights I've stood outside your door, my hand on the knob, fighting myself. No idea how hard it is to sit across from you at dinner and not drag you onto that table. No idea what it costs me not to touch you." Joanna's breath caught. "Then why?" "Because if I touch you once, I'll never stop." His eyes burned into hers. "Because my world is blood and death, and everything I love gets destroyed. Because I watched my mother raped and murdered, and I swore I'd never care enough about anyone to give my enemies that weapon. Minho. But tonight, seeing that man touch you, seeing you smile at him, I realized something." His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her bottom lip. "I'm already too far gone. You're already the weapon they can use against me. And I can't stay away anymore." His mouth crashed onto hers, hungry and desperate. Joanna made a sound of surprise that became a moan as his tongue swept into her mouth. His hands were in her hair, tilting her head back, taking everything. She'd never been kissed like this, like she was air and he was drowning. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He lifted her like she weighed nothing, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her to his desk. Papers scattered as he set her on the edge, his body pressing between her thighs. His mouth moved to her neck, teeth scraping her pulse point, and she cried out. 3 years of untouched longing exploded between them. His hands found the zipper of her dress, sliding it down. She fumbled with the buttons of his shirt, needing to feel his skin. "Tell me to stop," he growled against her throat. "Tell me you don't want this." "Don't stop," she gasped. "Please don't stop." He groaned and captured her mouth again, his hands mapping her curves, learning her body like he'd dreamed of for 3 years. When he finally took her on that desk, papers and pens crashing to the floor, her screams echoed through the mansion, announcing to everyone that their marriage had finally become real. Later, much later, Joanna woke in Minho's bed, her body deliciously sore. Dawn light filtered through the curtains. Minho was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an intensity that made her shiver. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I should have told you," he said quietly. "Why I stayed away. I should have explained instead of making you feel unwanted. Why didn't you? Because admitting I wanted you meant admitting I cared. And caring makes you vulnerable in my world." His jaw tightened. "My enemies are always looking for weaknesses. If they know about you, really know what you mean to me, they'll use you against me. So what changed? Seeing you with him, realizing you might leave me, might find someone who could give you a normal life." His eyes met hers. "I'm too selfish to let you go, even if it puts you in danger." Joanna's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. "I don't want normal. I want you. All of you, including the dangerous parts." Something softened in his expression. He kissed her, slow and sweet, so different from the desperation of last night. "Then you'll have me. But Joanna, you need to understand what that means. My world is violent. People die. I have enemies who would love to hurt me through you. Can you really handle that? I've been living in your world for 3 years. I'm stronger than you think." He smiled, the first real smile she'd ever seen from him. It transformed his face, making him look younger, less burdened. "I'm learning that." He pulled her closer. "No more separate rooms. You sleep here with me. I want to wake up to you every morning. Possessive already. You have no idea." His hand splayed possessively over her hip. "You're mine now, Joanna. And I protect what's mine." The next few days were a revelation. Minho couldn't keep his hands off her. He worked from home, insisting she stay in his study while he handled business calls. During meetings with his men, he'd pull her onto his lap, his arm around her waist, making it clear to everyone that she was his. At night, he explored her body with a thoroughness that left her breathless and boneless. But the outside world was noticing. A week after that night in his study, Mrs. Park came to Joanna with concern in her eyes. "There's talk," she said carefully, "among the other families, about how devoted Minho has become to you. Some see it as weakness." "Who?" Joanna asked. Mrs. Park hesitated. "Lee Sang-woo. He controls the docks. He's been rivals with Minho for years, waiting for an opening to strike. He's spreading rumors that Minho has gone soft, that his foreign wife has made him weak." That evening, Joanna told Minho what Mrs. Park had said. His expression went cold. "Sang-woo has been a problem for a long time," he said. "I've tolerated him because open war would be costly. But if he's threatening you, even indirectly, that tolerance ends. What will you do?" "What I should have done years ago. Eliminate the threat." He cupped her face. "Don't worry about this. It's my world, my problem. You just stay safe." But Joanna couldn't shake the worry. That night, she lay awake while Minho slept beside her, his arm heavy across her waist. She'd finally found happiness with him, finally understood his complicated heart. She refused to let some rival destroy what they'd built. The following morning, Minho left early for a meeting with his lieutenants. Joanna decided to visit Ji-won at the cafe, needing friendly conversation to ease her anxiety. She took her security detail, knowing Minho would be furious if she went alone. At the cafe, Ji-won immediately noticed something different about her. "You're glowing," Ji-won said with a knowing smile. "Things with your husband finally improved." Joanna felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You could say that." They talked for an hour, laughing over coffee, and Joanna felt some of her tension ease. But as she left the cafe, she noticed a black car following her security vehicle. Her guard noticed it too, his hand moving to his weapon. The car suddenly accelerated, cutting them off. Men poured out, armed and moving fast. Everything happened so quickly. Gunshots. her guard pushing her down, shouting into his radio. Someone grabbed her, dragging her toward the black car. She fought, screaming, but a cloth pressed over her mouth and nose, chemical sweet and overwhelming. The world went dark. She woke in a cold room, concrete walls, single light bulb swaying overhead. Her head pounded. Her hands were zip-tied to a metal chair. Panic surged through her. A door opened and a man walked in, middle-aged, expensive suit, cold eyes. Lee Sang-woo. "Mrs. Kong," he said pleasantly. "I apologize for the rough treatment. But your husband has something I want, and you're going to help me get it." "He'll kill you for this," Joanna said, her voice steadier than she felt. Kung laughed. "I'm counting on him trying. I have 30 men around this building. When he comes for you, and he will come, I'll kill him. Then I'll take everything he's built. His territory, his operations, his beautiful wife." His hand touched her face and she jerked away. "You have good taste, I'll admit." Minho's phone rang during the meeting. Junwoo's voice was tight with panic. "She's gone. They ambushed the security team. 3 men dead. They took her." The world stopped. Minho's vision went red. "Who?" "Lee Sang-woo. We tracked the vehicle to one of his warehouses in Incheon." Minho stood. Around the table, his lieutenants watched him with wary eyes. They'd never seen their boss lose control, but they were seeing it now. His hands shook with rage. "Gather everyone," Minho said, his voice deadly calm. "Every man we have. Full weapons. We're going to war." "Minho," Junwoo said carefully. "If we attack with full force, the police will get involved. Other families will take sides. This could start something that destroys us all." "I don't care." Minho's eyes were black with fury. "He took her. He touched what's mine. I'll burn this entire city to get her back." His second-in-command nodded. Within an hour, 50 armed men assembled at the mansion. Minho strapped weapons to his body, his face a mask of cold determination. Mrs. Park tried to speak to him, concern in her eyes, but he walked past her without a word. Nothing mattered except getting Joanna back. The warehouse was in an industrial area, all concrete and rust. Minho's men surrounded it, taking positions. He walked to the front entrance alone, hands visible, knowing Sang-woo would be watching. "I'm here," he called out in Korean. "You wanted me, you have me. Send her out and we'll settle this man to man." Sang-woo's voice echoed from a speaker. "I don't think so. Come inside. Alone. Unarmed. Or I start cutting pieces off your pretty wife." Minho's jaw clenched. He stripped off his jacket, his guns, his knives, dropping them on the ground. Then he walked inside. The warehouse was cavernous and dark. Sang-woo's men lined the walls, at least 20 of them, all armed. In the center, under that single light, Joanna sat tied to the chair. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Minho, no," she said. "It's a trap. I know." He walked toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. "I don't care." Sang-woo stepped from the shadows, a gun in his hand. Kong Minho, finally showing weakness. "It's almost touching." "Let her go," Minho said. "This is between us." "Oh, I'll let her go. After I kill you and make her watch. Then I think I'll keep her. She's quite beautiful." Sang-woo pressed the gun to Minho's head. "Any last words?" Minho smiled, cold and vicious. "Just one. Now." The skylight above shattered. Minho's men rappelled down, weapons firing. The walls exploded inward as more men poured in. Sang-woo barely had time to register what was happening before Minho moved, fast and brutal, disarming him with a strike that broke his wrist. The gun skittered across the floor. Chaos erupted. Gunfire. Shouting. Minho grabbed a knife from a falling guard and cut Joanna's bonds. She collapsed into his arms. "I've got you," he said against her hair. "I've got you." He lifted her, carrying her through the carnage, his men covering them. Outside, he placed her in an armored vehicle, Junwoo at the wheel. "Take her home," Minho ordered. "Don't stop for anything." "Wait." Joanna grabbed his shirt. "Where are you going?" "To finish this." His eyes were cold. He threatened you. He dies tonight. Min-ho. He kissed her, hard and desperate. I'll come home to you. I promise. Then he was gone, disappearing back into the warehouse. Joanna arrived at the mansion in shock, Mrs. Park immediately wrapping her in blankets, checking her for injuries. The housekeeper's face was tight with worry. He'll be all right, Mrs. Park said, though she didn't sound convinced. He's survived worse. But Joanna couldn't settle. She paced the living room, jumping at every sound. Hours crawled by. Dawn approached. No word. She was contemplating calling the police, consequences be damned, when she heard vehicles outside. She ran to the door. Min-ho walked in, covered in blood, his face exhausted. But he was alive. She launched herself at him and he caught her, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. It's over, he said. Sang-woo is dead. His operation is destroyed. You're safe now. She pulled back to look at him. Are you hurt? Is any of this blood yours? No. He touched her face. I'm fine. We need to get cleaned up. Then we need to talk. After a long shower, after he'd washed the blood away and held her under the spray until they both stopped shaking, they lay in his bed. The morning sun streamed through the windows. Min-ho pulled her against his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. I can't do this, he said quietly. Her heart stopped. Can't do what? Can't keep you in this world. Can't keep putting you in danger. His voice was raw with pain. Tonight, when I thought I might lose you, when I saw you tied to that chair, I wanted to burn the world down. And I realized something. My love for you is a weapon anyone can use against me. And you'll always be in danger as long as you're with me. Joanna pushed up to look at him. Are you saying you want me to leave? No. His hand cupped her face. I'm saying I'm too selfish to let you go, even though I should. I'm saying I love you too much to be smart about this. I'm saying you deserve better, but I'm keeping you anyway. Min-ho. She kissed him softly. I don't want better. I want you. Dangerous world and all. Yes, tonight was terrifying. Yes, I was scared. But I'd rather face danger with you than be safe without you. Do you understand that? I'm trying to. Then let me make it clear. She straddled him, her hands on his chest. I love you. I've loved you since that first charity event when you whispered translations in my ear and your hand was so gentle on my back. I've loved you through 3 years of loneliness, hoping someday you'd let me in. And now that I finally have you, really have you, you think I'm going to run because things got scary. I'm not going anywhere. His hands gripped her hips. You're too brave for your own good. Or maybe I just know what I want. Min-ho. I want you. All of you. The dangerous parts, the protective parts, the jealous possessive parts. I want this life even with the risks. Because a life without you isn't worth living safely. He pulled her down, kissing her with a desperation that spoke of fear and relief and overwhelming love. Then I'm keeping you, he said against her lips. Forever. You're mine, Joanna. Say it. I'm yours. Forever. That afternoon, Min-ho gathered his lieutenants for a meeting. Joanna sat beside him, his hand possessively on her thigh. He announced that Sang-woo's territory was now theirs, that any other rival who threatened his wife would meet the same fate. Then he looked at Joanna with something soft in his eyes. There's one more thing, he said. Joanna and I were married by my grandfather's arrangement. We never chose each other. I want to do this right. I want to marry her again, properly, with both our families present. A real wedding, not a business transaction. The room erupted in approval. Jun-woo clapped Min-ho on the shoulder, grinning. Mrs. Park actually teared up. And Joanna felt her heart overflow with love for this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who was trying so hard to give her the romance she deserved. The wedding took place 6 weeks later. Joanna's family flew in from America, her mother crying the entire ceremony. Her father surprisingly approving of Min-ho after a long conversation about intentions and protection. The ceremony blended Korean and American traditions, held in the mansion's gardens, hundreds of guests from both worlds attending. But the moment that mattered most was when Min-ho slipped a new ring on her finger, his eyes holding hers, and said in perfect English, I choose you, Joanna. Not because I have to. Because I can't imagine my life without you. You're my heart, my home, my reason for everything. I love you. She said her vows through tears, promising to stand beside him through danger and peace, through violence and love, through everything life threw at them. When they kissed, the garden erupted in cheers. That night, Minho carried her to their bedroom, laying her gently on the bed. "Mrs. Kong," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "My wife. My choice. Mine." "Yours," she agreed, pulling him down. "Always yours." 3 months after their second wedding, Joanna woke feeling nauseous for the 5th morning in a row. Minho was already awake beside her, his hand resting on her hip, watching her with concern as she pressed her hand to her stomach. "You're sick again," he said, sitting up. "I'm calling the doctor." "It's probably just something I ate," Joanna said, though uncertainty crept into her voice. The nausea had been consistent, always in the morning, always passing by noon. A sudden thought made her breath catch. "Minho, what if I'm pregnant?" His eyes widened, something raw and vulnerable flashing across his face. "Are you?" "I don't know. Maybe. We haven't exactly been careful." He was out of bed in seconds, pulling on clothes. "Get dressed. We're going to the doctor now." An hour later, they sat in Dr. Kim's private office, the older woman smiling as she reviewed test results. "Congratulations, Mrs. Kong. You're about 8 weeks pregnant. Everything looks healthy and normal." The world stopped. Joanna's hand went to her still flat stomach, wonder and terror mixing in her chest. She looked at Minho, trying to gauge his reaction. His face was unreadable, jaw tight, hands clenched on his thighs. "Minho," she said softly. He stood abruptly. "Thank you, Dr. Kim. Send all information to my secure email." "Joanna, we're leaving." The drive home was silent and tense. Minho's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. His jaw clenched so hard she worried he'd crack his teeth. When they reached the mansion, he went straight to his study without a word. Joanna followed, her heart pounding with dread. "Talk to me," she said, closing the study door. "Tell me what you're thinking." "I'm thinking this is the worst possible scenario." His voice was cold, controlled, nothing like the warm husband she'd come to know. "A child makes you even more vulnerable. Every enemy I have will see our baby as leverage, as a weapon to use against me. I can barely protect you. How am I supposed to protect both of you? We'll figure it out together." "No." He turned to face her, his eyes hard. "You don't understand. My mother was pregnant when they killed her. 8 months pregnant with my sister. They cut her open while my father watched, while I watched, and pulled the baby out just to make him suffer more before they shot him. That's my world, Joanna. That's what happens to the people I love." Tears burned her eyes. "I'm sorry you went through that. I can't imagine that pain. But Minho, we can't live our lives in fear of what might happen. This baby is a gift, a chance to build something beautiful despite all the darkness. You don't know what you're asking me to risk." "I'm not asking. I'm telling you. We're having this baby. And you're going to be an amazing father because you know what it's like to lose everything. You know how precious family is. You'll protect us better than anyone else could." His expression cracked, vulnerability flooding through. "What if I fail? What if I can't keep you both safe?" She crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. "Then we'll fail together. But I believe in you, Minho. I believe in us. This baby is going to be so loved, so protected, so cherished. We're going to give them everything we never had." He pulled her against him, his arms crushing her close, his face buried in her neck. She felt wetness against her skin and realized he was crying, this powerful man who never showed weakness, breaking in her arms. "I'm terrified," he whispered. "I'm so fucking terrified of losing you both." "I know. But we're stronger together. We'll make this work." Over the following weeks, Minho transformed from distant and frightened to obsessively protective. He hired additional security specifically to guard Joanna. He installed a panic room in the mansion with medical supplies and communication equipment. He made her wear a tracking device disguised as a bracelet at all times. He personally vetted every doctor, every specialist, every person who came near her. "You're being ridiculous," Joanna said one afternoon as he interviewed the potential pediatrician for the third time. "Dr. Lee is perfectly qualified." "He has a gambling debt," Minho said coldly. "Anyone with financial problems can be bought." "Next candidate." Joanna sighed but understood. This was how Minho showed love, through vigilance and protection. She'd learned to accept his intensity, even find comfort in it. By the 4th month, her pregnancy was showing. Minho couldn't keep his hands off her growing belly, constantly touching her, talking to their baby in Korean. At night, he'd rest his head on her stomach, whispering promises about protection and love and all the things they'd do together. "We need to choose names," Joanna said one evening as they lay in bed. "If it's a girl, I was thinking about honoring your mother." "What was her name?" Minho went still. "Sujin." "But Joanna, I don't know if I can." She would want her grandchild to carry her name, to know she was remembered with love, not just tragedy. His hand spread protectively over her belly. "And if it's a boy? I thought maybe we could blend our cultures." "James Minwoo." "James is my father's name." "James Minwoo Kong." He tested the name then smiled. "I like it. Strong name for a strong boy." "And if it's a girl?" "Sujin Grace Kong." "Grace for your mother." Joanna's eyes filled with tears. "Perfect. They're both perfect." But their peace didn't last. At 5 months pregnant, Joanna attended a charity luncheon for Korean American women's organizations. Minho had been reluctant to let her go, but she'd insisted. She needed to maintain some normalcy, some independence. She took 4 security guards and promised to stay in crowded public spaces. The luncheon was at a luxury hotel in downtown Seoul. Joanna mingled with other wives, discussing the charity projects Mrs. Park had helped her establish. She was laughing with a group of women when she noticed a familiar face across the room. Her blood went cold. It was Tae-sung, the artist from the cafe. The one Minho had threatened 3 months ago. He shouldn't be here. This was a women's event. But there he was, dressed as catering staff. His eyes locked on her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. She immediately signaled her head guard, a man named Dong-woo. He followed her gaze and his expression darkened. He spoke urgently into his radio while moving toward Joanna, but Tae-sung moved faster. He crossed the ballroom in seconds, pulling something from his pocket. "Syringe." Dong-woo shouted, drawing his weapon, but there were too many civilians. Tae-sung grabbed Joanna, the needle pressed to her throat. "Nobody move," he said in Korean, his voice shaking with adrenaline. "I'll inject her. It'll kill the baby instantly. Stay back." The room erupted in screams. Women scrambled away. Dong-woo and the other guards formed a perimeter, weapons drawn but unable to shoot with Joanna in the line of fire. "Tae-sung," Joanna said carefully in Korean, her language skills enough to communicate. "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" "Because your husband destroyed my life," he spat. "After that night at the cafe, he came to my apartment. He broke my hands, both of them, so I could never paint again. He said if I ever looked at you again, he'd kill me. I lost everything because I showed you kindness." Guilt flooded through her. "I didn't know. Sorry. But this won't fix anything. Hurting me and my baby won't give you your life back." "No. But it'll hurt him. He took what I loved. I'll take what he loves." Dongwoo was speaking urgently into his radio, undoubtedly calling Minho. Joanna's mind raced. She needed to keep Tae-sung talking, needed to buy time. "You're right," she said. "He hurt you. He went too far. But I'm not him. This baby isn't him. We're innocent in whatever happened between you two. Please, Tae-sung, don't punish us for his sins." Tae-sung's hand shook. The syringe wavered. "He needs to pay. He will. But not like this. Not by creating more victims." For a moment, she thought she'd reached him. His grip loosened slightly. Then the ballroom doors burst open and Minho stormed in. His face a mask of cold fury. He'd made it here impossibly fast, must have been close by, probably following her despite promising to give her space. Tae-sung panicked. The syringe pressed harder against her throat. Stay back or she dies. Minho froze. His eyes locked on that needle so close to Joanna's skin. She saw fear on his face, raw and undisguised. In Korean he said something low and urgent. She didn't catch all the words but understood the tone. Pleading. English, Tae-sung demanded. So she understands what her monster husband is saying. Minho switched languages, his voice rough. You want revenge. Take it from me, not her. I broke your hands. I ruined your career. I threatened you. She did nothing. She's innocent. The baby is innocent. If you want blood, take mine. No, Joanna said immediately. Minho, don't. Let her go, Minho continued, taking a step forward. Take me instead. I'll come willingly. No weapons, no fight. Just release her and you can do whatever you want to me. Tae-sung laughed bitterly. You think I'm stupid. The moment I let her go, your men will kill me. Then kill me first, Minho said. He pulled a gun from his jacket and slid it across the floor toward Tae-sung. Take it. Shoot me. Make me pay for what I did to you. Just let my wife and child go. The ballroom was silent except for muffled crying. Everyone watched this standoff with horror. Joanna's heart was breaking, watching her husband offer his life for theirs without hesitation. Minho, no, she said, tears streaming down her face. Please don't do this. His eyes met hers, full of love and desperate determination. I told you I'd burn the world to keep you safe. This is me keeping that promise. Tae-sung looked between them. His expression conflicted. The syringe trembled against Joanna's throat. Then, slowly, he released her and grabbed the gun instead, pointing it at Minho. You destroyed my life, Tae-sung said. You took my art, my future, everything I was. You did this because I talked to your wife. Because I was kind to her. What kind of monster are you? The worst kind, Minho said calmly. The kind who loves his wife so much he becomes irrational. The kind who sees threats everywhere because he's lost too much already. The kind who hurts innocent people because he can't bear the thought of losing what he loves again. You're right about everything. I'm a monster. So punish me. Pull the trigger. Joanna screamed. No. Please don't do this. He's wrong. Killing him won't make you feel better. It'll just create more tragedy. Please. Tae-sung's hand shook violently. Tears streamed down his face. I just wanted to paint, he whispered. That's all I ever wanted. I know, Minho said. And I took that from you. Sorry. It doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. You didn't deserve what I did to you. The apology seemed to break something in Tae-sung. The gun lowered slightly. Dongwoo used that moment to move, fast and efficient, disarming Tae-sung and taking him down with minimal force. Other guards swarmed in, securing the scene. Minho ran to Joanna, his hands frantically checking her for injuries. Did he hurt you? Did the needle break skin? The baby. We're fine, she sobbed. We're both fine. But Minho, you could have died. You were going to let him shoot you. Without hesitation, he said fiercely. Always. Every time. Your life and our baby's life are worth more than mine. Don't ever doubt that. She collapsed into him, shaking with reaction. He held her while police swarmed the hotel, while statements were taken, while Tae-sung was led away in handcuffs, still crying about his broken hands. Later, at the hospital where Dr. Kim checked both Joanna and the baby to confirm no harm was done, Minho sat with his head in his hands, guilt etched into every line of his face. He was right about me, Minho said quietly. I am a monster. I destroyed his life over nothing, over jealousy and possessiveness. And today it almost got you and our baby killed. Minho. No. Listen to me. I need to be better. I need to control this rage, this jealousy. I can't keep hurting innocent people because I'm terrified of losing you. Our child deserves a father who's better than that. Joanna took his hand. Then be better. Not by shutting me out or pushing me away, but by working on it. Get therapy. Learn to manage the fear. But don't blame yourself for everything. Tae-sung made his choice today. You offered him your life and he chose not to take it. That means something. I broke his hands, Joanna. I tortured a man for talking to my wife. I know. And that was wrong. But you acknowledged it. You apologized. You offered restitution. That's growth. That's change. Keep growing. Keep changing. For me. For our baby. He pulled her close, his hand on her belly where their child grew. I'll try. God, I'll try so hard to be the man you both deserve. 2 weeks later, Min-ho announced major changes to his organization. He was stepping back from the violent side of operations, delegating enforcement to his lieutenants while he focused on legitimizing their businesses. He established a fund for people harmed by his organization's activities, starting with a substantial payment to Tae-sung for the destruction of his art career. You're really doing this, Junwoo said, impressed. Going legitimate. I have a child coming, Min-ho said. I want them to be proud of their father, not ashamed. I want to build something they can inherit without blood on it. The transformation wasn't easy. Old habits died hard. Min-ho still struggled with jealousy when other men looked at Joanna, still had to fight the urge to solve problems with violence. But he was trying, going to therapy twice a week, learning healthy coping mechanisms, working to break cycles of trauma that had defined his life. Joanna watched him struggle and grow, falling more in love with him every day. This man who was trying so hard to be better, to build a safe world for their family, showed more courage than any amount of violence ever could. At 7 months pregnant, Joanna woke in the middle of the night to find Min-ho's side of the bed empty. She found him in the nursery they'd been preparing, sitting in the rocking chair, holding a tiny onesie in his hands. He looked up as she entered, tears on his face. I'm terrified, he admitted. In 2 months, we'll have a tiny human who depends on us completely. What if I fail them? What if I can't protect them? What if I'm a terrible father? Joanna lowered herself carefully into his lap, his arms immediately wrapping around her and their baby. You're going to be an amazing father. You know why? Because you care this much. Because you're willing to change and grow. Because you love so fiercely. Our baby is going to be so lucky to have you. I hope you're right. I am. Trust me. The next weeks passed in preparation. They finished the nursery, all soft yellows and grays with touches of both Korean and American culture. Min-ho installed state-of-the-art security, including bulletproof windows and a safe room connected directly to the nursery. Mrs. Park helped Joanna prepare traditional Korean postpartum foods and protocols. Joanna's mother arrived from America, ready to help with the baby. At 38 weeks, Joanna went into labor during dinner. Min-ho went white with panic, fumbling with car keys, forgetting the hospital bag, nearly tripping over his own feet. Junwoo had to physically push him into the car and remind him to breathe. I can't do this, Min-ho said in the hospital waiting room while Joanna was being examined. I can't watch her in pain. I can't handle if something goes wrong. You can and you will, Mrs. Park said firmly. She needs you in there being strong for her. So pull yourself together and be the man she deserves. Min-ho entered the delivery room to find Joanna already in active labor, her face tight with pain. He took her hand and she squeezed so hard he thought bones might break. He didn't care. I'm here, he said. I've got you. You're doing amazing. I'm dying, she gasped. I'm definitely dying. You're not dying. You're bringing our baby into the world. You're the strongest person I know. 14 hours later, at 6:47 in the morning, Sujin Grace Kong entered the world screaming. The doctor placed the tiny perfect baby girl on Joanna's chest and they both cried, overwhelmed with love and relief and wonder. Min-ho stood frozen, staring at his daughter. She was so small, so fragile, with a full head of black hair and her mother's nose. When she opened her eyes, they were dark like his. He reached out with a shaking hand to touch her tiny fingers, and she gripped his finger with surprising strength. She's perfect, he whispered. She's absolutely perfect. Do you want to hold her? Joanna asked. He looked terrified but nodded. The nurse showed him how to support her head, how to cradle her against his chest. The moment he held her, something fundamental shifted in his universe. This tiny person was his. His to protect, his to love, his responsibility and his joy. Hello, Sujin, he said softly in Korean. I'm your appa. I'm going to spend every day of my life making sure you're safe and loved and happy. I'm going to teach you to be strong and kind. I'm going to protect you from everything dark in this world. And I'm going to love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. The baby yawned, completely unimpressed by his emotional declaration. Joanna laughed through happy tears. She's going to have you wrapped around her little finger, she said. Already does, Minho admitted. He looked at Joanna with overwhelming love. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this. For giving me a family. For loving me despite everything I am. For believing I could change. Thank you for changing. For being brave enough to grow. For loving us enough to become better. They stayed like that for hours, the three of them in their own little world, beginning the next chapter of their complicated, beautiful, hard-won life together. 6 months passed in a blur of sleepless nights and perfect moments. Sujin was a demanding baby, wanting to be held constantly, crying whenever Minho left the room. He was utterly besotted, canceling meetings to stay home with her, carrying her everywhere, talking to her constantly in Korean about everything and nothing. You've created a monster, Junwoo teased, watching Minho feed Sujin while simultaneously reviewing contracts. The most feared man in Seoul, brought to his knees by a 6-month-old. Best thing that ever happened to me, Minho said without shame. Besides her mother. Joanna watched him with their daughter and fell in love all over again. This man who had been so broken, so afraid to love, was now the most devoted father she'd ever seen. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors at night singing Korean lullabies, baby-proofed the entire mansion with obsessive thoroughness. But there were still threats. One evening, Dongwoo brought Minho intelligence about a rival organization making inquiries about Sujin. Someone was gathering information about the baby, her routines, her security details. Minho's expression went cold and deadly. Find out who. Find out why. And make it clear that my daughter is completely off limits. Anyone who even thinks about threatening her will disappear. The threat was neutralized within 48 hours, but it reminded them that danger was never far away. That night, Minho held Sujin longer than usual before putting her down, his face tight with worry. What if it never ends? He asked Joanna. What if there are always threats? What if she grows up afraid? Then we teach her to be strong. We teach her to protect herself. We give her the tools to handle this world. Joanna took his hand. And we love her so much that the fear never defines her. Just like you didn't let your trauma define you forever. I'm still working on that. I know. And that's what makes you such a good father. You're still fighting to be better. On Sujin's first birthday, they threw a party that blended both cultures. Korean traditional dress and American birthday cake. Korean games and English songs. Joanna's family flew in from America. Minho's uncle and remaining relatives attended. Even some of the reformed members of his organization came, bringing gifts and blessings. Sujin, dressed in a tiny hanbok, smashed her face into the cake with enthusiastic joy. Minho laughed, completely delighted, not caring about the mess. He lifted her up, cake-covered face and all, and kissed her forehead. Happy birthday, my little miracle, he said in Korean, then English. You made me believe in second chances, in hope, in love. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know how precious you are. That night, after guests left and Sujin was asleep, Minho led Joanna to the roof of the mansion. Under the Seoul night sky, he pulled out a small box. What's this? Joanna asked, surprised. Open it. Inside was a necklace with 3 charms. A Korean character, an English initial, and a tiny baby shoe. It represents our family, Minho explained. Korean and American, brought together by love. 3 people who were lost and broken and found each other. He fastened it around her neck. I know we're already married twice, but I wanted to give you something to mark this first year. The year everything changed. The year we became a real family. Minho. Tears filled her eyes. It's perfect. You're perfect. I'm not. But I'm trying to be. For you. For Sujin. For this life we're building together. He pulled her close. I love you, Joanna. More than I thought I could love anyone. You saved me from myself. We saved each other. They stood there holding each other, looking out over the city that had witnessed their journey. From strangers forced into marriage, to lovers who'd fought for each other, to parents raising a daughter in a complicated world. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been simple. But it had been real and honest and theirs. 2 years later, Joanna discovered she was pregnant again. Minho was thrilled and terrified in equal measure. This time he was slightly less panicked, though he still drove the security team crazy with additional precautions. At least I know what to expect this time, he said, his hand on her growing belly. I know we survive it. I know the love is worth the fear. Much better attitude than last time, Joanna teased. I've grown, matured, become wise in my old age. You're 34. Ancient compared to my younger, more foolish self who almost let you walk away. At 3 years old, Sujin was delighted about becoming a big sister. She talked to Joanna's belly constantly, telling the baby about all the things they do together. Minho watched his daughter with infinite tenderness, amazed every day that he'd been given this life. James Min Woo Kong arrived on a snowy January evening, calm and peaceful where his sister had been demanding and loud. Minho held his son and felt his heart expand again, making room for more love than he'd thought possible. We did it, he said to Joanna as they lay in the hospital room, Sujin asleep in a chair and baby James in his arms. We built a family. A real, beautiful, complicated, perfect family. Yes, we did. Against all odds. Do you ever regret it? The danger, the complications, everything you've had to handle being married to me? Never. She touched his face. You're my choice, Minho. Every day, every moment.